I am so excited that you guys are tuning in. And I know as everybody's home a little bit more right now than they anticipated, you have a little more time. This is a much better thing to be putting in your head than sitting and watching Netflix and eating brownies. Trust me, you're going to get a lot more out of this. We have just some amazing people, super people that have so much energy and so much passion about what they do. And on a smaller level, I just really want to bring this to you guys to show you that there's people out there that saw a need and just didn't let anything get in their way, and they're getting it done. So I really want you guys to hear directly from these fantastic, hardworking, spirited people, and let them tell you their stories. And so we're interviewing live several people, and right now I have the extreme pleasure to interview somebody that I just absolutely am amazed by and thrilled to know. Feel very fortunate. My friend, who we have recently become close and are, really connecting, Suzanne Ratti. And Suzanne, tell everybody a little bit about you and who you are. What's your backstory? How did you get to today?
All right. Well, thanks so much for having me. This is exciting. So I own a company called Ideas 360, which is a sales and marketing organization. And really, we evaluate growth opportunities to determine how businesses can grow their business through sales and marketing strategies. And then I also do some sales coaching, which allows me to work with individuals to basically help them not just develop techniques, but how to build relationships, how to nurture client prospects, and how to expand their sphere of influence. And then kind of on a side note, I have a group of smart women professionals, and that's kind of like my passion. And that group has about, I guess, almost 2,300 people in it now.
Holy cow, I had no idea.
Yeah. And that's really a community that was designed to have basically a contagious mindset. That's the way I like to look at it, where women can really support each other, lift each other up. And it's been a fantastic group of women. So those are my two gigs right now.
Very exciting. So, okay, so let's go back just a teeny bit and tell us how long you've been doing the sales and marketing thing, and how'd you get started? What made you want to do that?
Well, I got started in your backyard. I grew up in Southern Maryland, and my first job was at Raley's Furniture.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and I literally started there laying out advertising. When I say laying out, I was literally cutting and pasting images to go in newspaper ads. So that's how old I am.
No, you just started doing it when you were 12. That's all.
Yes. So that's how I got started. And then my career progressed. I got into sales and just had a real passion for sales. But I think, one of the biggest things in my career that really kind of like laid the path was I was in sales, but I never had the marketing materials I needed. I had marketing materials, but they maybe didn't have quite the message that aligned with how I was positioning my sales. So I started to get drawn into the marketing side of things from a sales perspective. And I think that's probably what the big differentiator is that I come from a sales background with some marketing thrown in there. And that alignment is what's so important. And that's what I help clients with.
And that's really interesting. So, this isn't in our script, but as a business person and, certainly not in that realm. So tell us, because this seems to be a theme in your industry, like for the layman, what's the difference between sales and marketing?
Whoa, that's such a good one. All right. So I'll try. You have a sales funnel, and historically the sales funnel is operated and run by the sales leader, sales organization. And historically you have a marketing department organization, and the two of them are typically silos. And the digital technology platforms have merged those two things, but there's still a lot of organizations that still operate separately there. And what I try to do is bring the marketing aspect into the sales funnel, because when we're marketing, we're actually pushing people into the sales funnel much lower. So the salespeople don't even touch prospects until they're at the lowest point of the sales funnel. So if you look at all that gap at the top, that's marketing. And that's really where the alignment occurs, is that you have to have your marketing message and your marketing communication has to really be well aligned with sales, so that as that transition occurs, It's just a natural evolution to close the sale.
That's really interesting. So instead of having two factions that are trying to figure out how to work together that really don't understand how to work together, that integrating the two of those and aligning them properly makes it much more seamless for the person that you're trying to market or sell to also, because now you don't have, okay, we just transitioned you from the customer service department to the, actual production department kind of thing. You're not going through as a customer that whatever shift, that roller coaster of, if you will. That makes it much clearer.
And kind of back to something that you actually do is that a lot of times salespeople know what they need to do to get the sale, right? But it's the messaging. It's Are you really communicating your why? And are you really communicating, here's the pain point, here's the solution, here's how these two things work together, because that turns sales into solutions versus selling.
It's a relationship.
Yeah. And when I do sales coaching, that's the big thing, is that sales is not about selling. It's not about techniques and, feature benefits. Sales is really, in today's environment anyway, sales is really about solutions.
Yeah. And we hear this relationship marketing thing all the time, but people don't seem to understand. That's one reason, like you and I were talking offline about the authenticity of what you're doing. People, we hear this all the time, but people do work with people they know, like, and trust. And if somebody knows me because I'm sharing information that I know, not what I do for a living, but how I do things, or pain points that they have, and not how I can fix them, but how I understand them. And that's why I ask the questions of the people I'm interviewing about the whole questions they're being asked, because that's the backup to where the question comes from, and then go through into the solution. And now somebody trusts you because you took the time to go through those steps and identified exactly what they're looking for. So
absolutely.
I like it. That's really great, because I think that's a lot of confusion in your industry, or not in your industry, from the layman side of your industry. How do these things come together? Yeah.
And I think, the other big thing is anybody with a laptop can be a marketer nowadays.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. Yeah. I mean, it's fortunate, but it's also unfortunate, because what happens is folks throw their hat in the ring. But when it comes to providing really, really strategic marketing guidance, that's a big piece that's missing in our industry. And so that's kind of where I feel the gap is. I'm not here to just, sell advertising. Hey, you should go advertise pay per click. I really look at the overall strategy of the sales goals of the organization and try to strategize ways that marketing can really be effective and actually have some ROI.
Yeah. And drill down into what the essence of what that company has to offer that's different than maybe, every other health and wellness company out there, that type of thing, what their company information is. That's why that one-on-one. And that's when I said, when you said anybody could do marketing online anymore, I said, so one thinks, because exactly this. People seem to think, I can go create a flyer on Canva and put it on Facebook and woo, everybody's going to be calling me, and that's not going to happen. So yeah. And that's what you bring to the table, is that expertise of knowing I am different because I do things this way, and you can mold that information into being something that's very well received by the people that are consuming it, that I'm trying to reach. So
yeah, I think with business owners, I mean, the big thing is anybody who's an entrepreneur gets into business about what they know. So it doesn't matter if you're making widgets or whatever it is. You start a business because that's what you know. Most people don't start a business because they know how to market it. It's just they know about the product or the service that they're selling. And so where sales and marketing alignment is really important is that when I meet with entrepreneurs, a lot of times they'll be like, look, Suzanne, I'm not sure who or how we need to get this out there, but here's why I started the business. And when I understand that part and I understand what the pain points were, then it's much easier to market that organization.
Gosh, I love that. That's such good information, because it really makes this whole concept really crystal clear. Because the one thing that business people that go into business don't realize is they're going to have to be their own accountant. They're going to have to be their own marketer. They're going to have to be their own janitor. They're going to have to be, all of those pieces that they really just wanted to go make the widget and didn't put all the rest of that together in their mind. Or also the rest of the world doesn't realize that that owner of that business does all those things too. But what was really interesting, as you said, that was that because of the way that you approach your business, you're reaching out to people and saying, look, I want you to do exactly what you're so good at, and I'm going to help you tell that story better. I'm going to help you get that information out there, because that's not why you got in business, to go out and have to learn how to use Canva or, any of the social media or any of the rest of it. You learned you wanted to start your business because you felt passionate about what that is that you do. So I love that analogy. That's really good. Especially for the layman who's trying to, and in today's world, you and I have talked about this a little bit offline. Everybody's cutting back because, gosh, what's going to happen tomorrow? But this is an area that you don't really need to cut back on, because you got to pay attention that as everybody else is now sitting at home on their computer trying to create their own little flyers, you still want to have the same message that you've been working on all along, because that's why people work with you, because they understand you better, because Suzanne's putting that information out there.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at every crisis, recession, whatever, the folks who pulled back, those are the folks that had trouble sustaining their business. The folks that said, and I gave a speech about this yesterday, the folks who said, we need to pivot our business, maybe we need to pivot our message, but we need to pivot a little bit, and they kept on marketing, those are the folks that survive. So it's important right now.
Yeah. And I think that's just, the timing of this is just crazy, really good, because it's just crucial for people to think about what is important right now to keep those kinds of things going. Even if your doors are closed. I was watching something last night about a restaurant in DC that has never closed in something like 80 years or something. And they just said, I can't do the carry out kind of thing. And they took that smart business move and made that decision for themselves. But yet, in the same vein, they're still doing all of their information, putting their information out there, because that's sustainability, because they figured out how to do that and share that message constantly so people know what's going on.
Yeah, it's crucial.
Yeah, I love that. So what's the difference between you and we talked a little bit about this, but I just want to make sure that we hit all of the points, because I think this is really important. What's the difference between you and another company that does sales, marketing, any of those kinds of areas, if you will?
Well, as a true consultant, I don't push a particular product or service. So you have a lot of marketing companies out there that are selling pay-per-click, or they're selling social media advertising, or they're selling graphic design. I mean, I can offer any of those services, but my real job as a consultant is to determine which of the tools in my tool bag you need. And sometimes I'm the resource for that. But a lot of times I bring in outside resources who specialize in those specific areas. So when I have a client who needs specific social media strategy, we'll go over the strategy. But as far as the execution, in today's marketing world, you have to have specialties. Nobody can do it all well. It's the master of trades. How does that go? Master of all, jack of none. Jack of all trades, master of none. There we go.
There you go.
But that's really true in marketing. And so I have a lot of really, really strategic partners and resources that I bring into the equation as the strategy deems appropriate. So I can provide a wide array of services, but I am not, my job, my job is not to make money off of selling you advertising. And that's a big difference. And then the other thing that's really a big differentiator is the sales aspect. Most marketing companies have never had to live on 100% commission and do sales. So I understand both the sales side of it as well as the marketing side of it. And I've made my living, a good portion of my career, I've made my living in sales. So I understand kind of the mindset. 90% of sales happens between the ears. So if you are not training your sales team, if you are not aligning those sales and marketing strategies, you could disengage your sales team. So that's kind of the unique aspect I bring. And with the sales coaching side of things, it just adds to that even further, because when we create a good marketing message and we identify a good target audience, you got to get sales buy-in. And that sometimes that requires training and coaching them up.
Yeah. And one thing I like about what you're talking about is that and a lot of people probably don't know this, but several businesses have alliances with other businesses, and will be like their part of their sales team. So like when you're talking about aligning people with certain resources and functionalities, there's a lot of times there's connections between those, and you can offer those. But like you said, you can't, your specialty is to make sure that you drill in and find out exactly what a business needs, what their passion is, what their story. I go back to that because that's really where my heart is about helping businesses with that. But what do they do different? How do they make things? Why did they do this? And so you're more focused on exactly that, as opposed to having your fingers in all the pots and not necessarily always being able to execute all those. And that's really important for people to identify that. Again, this whole entrepreneurial concept is, knowing what your strengths are and knowing where to reach out for other resources. So I like that a lot. That's really great stuff. Really good stuff. So what do you think the biggest challenge is that you faced in your business personally and professionally?
Boy, that's a good one. So in my career, if you rewind the clock 25 years, I have come from a very different place to a very different place today. And I think that's a challenge, but it's also opportunity, right? So I guess what I mean by that is that when I first started into sales, or first tried to get into sales, I was denied access. The organization I worked for, all the salespeople were men. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I was flatly denied access to go into sales, and that was the primary reason. Whereas, I look at today and I look at all the opportunity that's out there for women, and I think that's been a challenge, but it's also given me a lot of empathy, and it's also made me very grateful for where we are today. So I think that's one aspect of it. I think also another challenge is that, I've seen a lot of younger women in the roles that I've had to hire folks. And for about 10 years, most of my target hiring was fresh out of college. And what I noticed was that a lot of women were coming out of college, they had degrees, but they didn't have the direction to know where to take their career. So that was a challenge, but again, opportunity, because I think that it's provided me an opportunity to mentor a lot of really cool young women. And today I still have relationships and friendships with a lot of those women. Some of those women are very successful in their own right. I'll still get calls when they're thinking about a career change, and they'll say, hey, this is an opportunity that I'm thinking about or that I'm pursuing. What do you think? And, that's beautiful. It's beautiful to be part of that kind of growth and to see that. So, I think there's a lot of opportunity that comes out of the challenge, but I also think it makes you really grateful.
So I really appreciate you sharing that. But here's the other thing that I wanted to hit on, something that you pointed out, and people just don't think about this when you're in a business environment. So, particularly people who haven't taken this leap, they say, oh gosh, if I hit a stumbling block or I don't know what to do, I'm on my own and it's so scary. I don't know who to call. And this concept of mentor is, I know it's a little bit off of our topic, but I think it's huge. In the world of entrepreneurial spirit, it's huge, right? So you touched on it with your Smart Women Professionals, because that's one of the things that group, and I happen to be a part of that group. That's how I met Suzanne. Phenomenal, amazing group of people. And she puts together various different avenues for us to connect. And it's just, nonstop. This lady works nonstop about trying to do that. But the one thing that I think ties back to what you just said is this whole mentor concept is, women, men, young people, older, it doesn't really matter. What it means is, find somebody that you respect their abilities. And, it's been said before that you respect their ability and what they're doing with their business, and then do what they're doing. But more importantly, reach out to them and ask for help. It's not weak to say, gosh, I really want to start creating this widget. I see there's a perfect alignment with what I need. I could use this and I think everybody else in the world could use it. Absolutely, get going with it and find those people that you trust and respect, whether they're famous or very well known or not, but they're successfully executing what you want to see happen, and ask for help. Stop being afraid to ask for help, particularly in the women's world. I feel like this is so important to be said because, I know we have guys and girls watching, and that's fantastic. But I will say that guys don't understand that ladies do run into this wall a lot. And it's a mental wall we put up for ourselves, partially because of previous things that have happened in the world. But the mentorship is such a huge piece. And I just love that you touched on that, because I think that is just such a missing part. And people that are starting out need to know it's okay to look for that.
Yeah. And I think, if you get a good mentor, what it provides you is not just a path for growth, but the biggest challenge is failure. When we fail, we have such a societal connection with what that means. And if you have a mentor, the mentor will be able to say, "Hey, honey, guess what? Put your big girl pants on, because you're going to learn something out of this. Let's talk about it." And they'll help you uncover what the opportunities are. And for me, I think that's one of the biggest things that mentors can provide, is kind of that sounding board. So when you fall down and you make a mistake, which we're all going to do, a mentor is a really good person that can lift you back up and help you realize that, hey, that's just a speed bump in the road. And, I personally don't believe that you have any growth in the comfort zone. Failure is the place where we grow. So I think that's what mentors do really well too, is they help you try to figure out where the opportunity is out of failures.
It's a really good point, because I talk about failure a lot, because people forget that you can't, if you think about a baby learning to walk, the first time that they fell, if they didn't ever get back up, they'd never walk. So, failure is only when you stop trying. It's not failure when you don't do it. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes you need that person or persons. You can have many different mentors that fill different roles for you that can help you through those speed bumps, if you will, instead of, it's not really a failure, it's learning opportunities all day long. You're right.
Yeah. And I mean, I had about a 2 year stint in my career where I was out in Silicon Valley and pitching on the investor circuit. And so I met with a lot of entrepreneurs who were pitching their ideas or their concepts. And I met a ton of people who were investors, who were very wealthy, very successful. And it didn't matter whether I met the investor or the entrepreneur. There was absolutely a unanimous common bond between them all. And that was failure. Every single one of them said, there wasn't an investor that I met or an entrepreneur that I met that didn't say that failure was actually the biggest lessons, where they had learned the biggest lessons. So I just, that's a big thing for me. I believe in failure, and I believe that if everything goes along smoothly all the time, we're not learning. So, embracing failure is a big concept for me.
I love that you're sharing that information. That's so huge, because I think so many people need that recognition that, wow, they're not in this alone. It's happened to them too. What do you do next? So that is just a huge concept, and I really appreciate you sharing that. So let's move past this, and we are a little bit coming close on time, but I want to hit two things that I think are really important. Number one, where do you see yourself 1 to 3 to 5 years from now? Give us 2 steps.
You want an honest answer?
Yeah, of course.
I want to be on a beach renting umbrellas.
You know what? There was a time when I said I wanted to be the Walmart greeter, and my husband said, "You're too young." And I'm like, all I want to do is say, "Welcome to Walmart. Here's a sticker." I totally get it. That's an entrepreneurial answer for sure.
That's right. That's my good answer. Yeah.
I love it. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. All right. So tell me, and I ask everybody this because I really want to know. Tell me, and if you've listened to any of the interviews, my explanation about this, but tell me your superpower. So your superpower is not like what you do amazing. It's like what makes you feel amazing. So like, what's that thing that gives you goosebumps and that you do in your business that sets your hair on fire and, just like, supercharges you. It doesn't matter how tired you are, you're going to keep doing it.
it's probably going to sound really geeky, but when I meet with a client and especially a new business, and they've been struggling to try to figure out how they're going to sell whatever it is they're doing. And, usually I have a discussion called a brainstorming session, and we go over the why concepts and we try to come up with their core messaging. And when we get it, when we get their message and they go, yes, that's what I've been trying to tell people. I just didn't know how to communicate that. When we get it, that's like my emotional paycheck, because at that point, the entrepreneur's lights go off, their eyes light up, and they realize that there really is going to be a way for them to be successful. And it's just about making sure that they've got the right message and they've got the right strategy. So, the name of my company is Ideas 360, because I am full of ideas. I love to brainstorm with people, and we usually end up coming up with some pretty good stuff that people walk away and go, that was worth every minute, every second, every penny, whatever. That's the emotional paycheck for me.
I love it. And I don't think that's geeky at all. That is probably, I can't say it's the best answer I've gotten, but as you were saying it, I got chills for you. Like, I could totally feel like, oh my God, I can see that energy. Like, being an entrepreneur and somebody getting what I'm trying to tell them. I could just feel it as you were saying it. That was so fun. That was absolutely perfect. And that's the thing that I want people to get out of this series. Not the only thing, but one of many things is we all have like and it's so easy for me to say, oh, what set your hair on fire gives you goosebumps. But the fact that as you're explaining that, I could feel it for you. And I also have experienced it. I'm like, that's it. That's exactly what I want people to feel when they're listening to you and understanding your business and what that's all about. Give me just a quick snippet. What kind of advice could you offer other entrepreneurs? Somebody who's thinking about starting something, they know they've got the right answer, and they're maybe afraid to jump out to the next level. What is that?
Best advice is don't do it all yourself. I am not a math person. I don't particularly care for numbers. I'm not good with numbers. And so one of the first people that I hired in my business was an accountant, a bookkeeper, somebody to help me with all of that. And that was money well spent. At the time, I thought, oh my gosh, this is a fair amount of money I need to spend every month just for somebody to, count my beans, so to speak. It was money well spent. And I think the same thing is true in a lot of areas of our business, whether it's, having a sales strategist or marketing strategist, whether it's having an accountant, whether it's having somebody review contracts. A lot of times people just wing it out of the gate. And the way that they unfortunately learn is through, things that maybe they should have outsourced. So I think as a small business, as an entrepreneur, don't expect yourself to know everything about everything. Get the resources, outsource what you need. I think that's huge.
Yeah, that's a fantastic advice. I really love that. Absolutely a fact. And some of the things that we've been speaking about through all these interviews is, and as we talked about earlier, as being the entrepreneur, you know what you know how to do, but you can't be expected to know how to do all these other things. So you've got to trust the fact that you need some resources as well. Okay, so my very last thing I've been asking everybody, and so you probably already have it in your head, but if you got stuck in an elevator with 3 people, actually I'm going to use 4 people this time. Not that it matters, but what would you, if you guys got stuck and you couldn't go anywhere and everybody's going around the elevator saying, all right, what do you do for a living? Give it to us in 10 words or less.
Wow. I would say, let's see, what do I do for a living? I help you market your business. I help you. Wow. You caught me off guard with that one.
Really? Good. Okay, well, that's good, because I feel like that's been a little scripted. I've thrown it out there, but I'll say to people, like, what's your infomercial? They're like, oh my God. Ooh,
I usually
know. And really, it's that. If you're in the dentist's office and you're sitting there for an hour because, they're too busy, and you start talking to the person next to you, so what do you do for a living? I just use the elevator because you're stuck there. That's all.
Yeah. I usually end up telling people that I am what the message is for your company. I help you come up with that. But I think my mind just like evacuated when you asked me that. So
I like
really,
that. I mean, so you're the one
really
who. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. I caught you off guard. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect. Well, we don't, I try to stay on time with everybody because I don't want to be abusive of anybody's time watching us live, because there's so much good information here. We could go on for a while, but I do think that we, kind of touched on all these different pieces of things that I thought that maybe would be helpful. And you just had so many additional nuggets, mentorship and failure, and the difference between sales and marketing and the funnels. And it was just hugely helpful for me also as an entrepreneur. But I also wanted to make sure that people that are watching, that are thinking about doing things, are getting nuggets and information out of this too. And this was just a phenomenal interview. And Suzanne, I truly appreciate your time. I know that you're such a busy lady. I really wanted to touch on Smart Women Professionals a little bit more. But if somebody wants to find you, how do they find you?
Ideas360llc.com or smartwomenpros.com.
Excellent. Excellent. And guys, check out that Smart Women Pros. It is an amazing place to be. I mean, just so many powerful women there that are not overwhelmingly powerful. They're helpful, powerful, and just full of information and willing to help each other. So it's a great space for ladies that are trying to or working in their business. So Suzanne, I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so very much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend Suzanne Ratti, I think you all got some really good stuff. So Suzanne, thanks for being on with us today.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
All right. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.